At Thanksgiving, Mom reminded everyone to be gentle with me. "Jessica's not doing well," she said, touching my hand with that practiced concern she'd perfected over 13 years. "The treatments aren't working." My sister nodded sadly, her eyes glistening with fake tears. Dad looked down at his plate, shoulders slumped like he was carrying the weight of my impending death. My aunt reached across the table to squeeze my other hand. Uncle Mike cleared his throat, uncomfortable with mortality at the dinner table. I smiled, played along, like I'd done for 13 years. Then I pulled out the medical records. The real ones. My name is Jessica Torres. I have wavy auburn hair that used to be vibrant before I stopped caring about appearances. I have green eyes that look tired because I've spent 13 years believing I was dying. I have a posture that's slightly hunched, shoulders curved inward, like I'm trying to take up less space before I disappear completely. And until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had 6 months to live. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about everything. The lie started when I was 16. I remember the day clearly because it was the day my life stopped moving forward and started counting down. October 12th, junior year of high school. I'd been feeling tired for weeks, sleeping through classes, struggling to keep up with homework. Not sick exactly, just exhausted in a way that rest didn't fix. My mother took me to the doctor. Dr. Harrison, our family physician who'd known me since I was born. He ran tests, blood work, scans, things I didn't understand but trusted were necessary. A week later, my parents sat me down in our living room. The curtains were drawn. The house felt heavy, like the air itself had thickened. "Jessica, sweetheart," my mother began, her voice breaking in that way that made my stomach drop. The tests came back. My father couldn't look at me, just stared at his hands folded in his lap. "You have a condition, a rare blood disorder. It's terminal, honey." The word hung in the air. Terminal. Final. Ending. What does that mean? My voice sounded small, childish. "It means..." My mother's eyes filled with tears. Real tears, I thought then. "It means we need to make the most of the time we have. The doctors say with treatment, you could have years. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. But..." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. "Am I going to die?" My father finally looked up. "We're all going to die eventually, Jess. We know more about your timeline than most people." I was 16. I should have been thinking about prom and college applications and what I wanted to be when I grew up. Instead, I was thinking about funeral arrangements and bucket lists and how many Christmases I had left. That night, alone in my room, I made a decision. If I was going to die young, I needed to accept it. I needed to be brave. I needed to make peace with it. So I did. I made peace with dying. And that peace destroyed my life more thoroughly than any disease ever could. The changes were gradual at first. Small shifts that seemed reasonable given my condition. I'd wanted to study art. I'd spent years drawing, painting, dreaming about art school in New York or California. But after the diagnosis, my parents gently suggested I reconsider. "Art school is stressful, honey. All those late nights, the competitive environment. You need to conserve your energy. Focus on your health." So I went to community college instead. Close to home. Easy classes. Nothing too demanding. I'd wanted to travel. See Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona. But my mother worried. "What if something happens while you're overseas? What if you have an episode and we're not there? Let's wait until you're stronger." So I stayed home. Watched travel videos on YouTube. Collected guidebooks I'd never use. I'd wanted to fall in love, get married, maybe have children someday. But when I met David in college, when things started getting serious, my mother pulled me aside. "Jessica, is it fair to him? To let him invest in a future that might not exist? You need to think about what you're asking him to sacrifice." So I broke up with David. Told him I wasn't ready for commitment. Watched him move on, get engaged to someone else, build the life I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve. Every dream I had, every plan I made, every hope for the future was quietly dismantled by the ticking clock in my head. Not today, I'd think. Not when I might not be here tomorrow. The treatments were a constant presence. Monthly appointments. Medications that made me nauseous. Infusions that took hours. My mother always came with me, sitting beside me in the hospital chair, holding my hand, telling me how brave I was. "You're so strong, Jessica. I don't know how you do it." I didn't feel strong. I felt tired. But I smiled and said thank you, because what else was there to say? The years passed. 18, 20, 25. Each birthday felt like borrowed time. Each Christmas like it might be my last. I took photos of everything, trying to preserve memories I thought would be all that remained of me. My sister Melissa lived differently. She went to state school, studied business, got a good job in marketing. She traveled. She dated. She planned her future with confidence I'd never had. "I wish I could be more like you," I told her once. She hugged me tight. "You're dealing with so much, Jess. You're already amazing." But I didn't want to be amazing at dying. I wanted to be normal at living. By 29, I'd accepted my life for what it was. Small. Contained. Safe. I worked part-time at a bookstore, lived in a studio apartment, had a routine that never varied. Wake up, go to work, come home, take my medications, sleep. Repeat. My family checked on me constantly. Daily calls from my mother. Weekly dinners. Everyone treating me like I was made of glass, like I might shatter if they looked at me too hard. How are you feeling today, honey? Any new symptoms? Did you take your medication? Are you eating enough? I answered their questions. Reassured them. Played my role in the tragedy they'd written. Until 3 weeks ago, when the script changed. I'd been having headaches. Persistent, annoying, the kind that made it hard to focus on anything else. My mother insisted I see a specialist, worried it was a new symptom, a sign the disease was progressing. Dr. Chin was new to the practice. Young, thorough, with an efficiency that felt almost aggressive after years of doctors who treated me like I might break. She reviewed my file, ordered new tests, and scheduled a follow-up for the following week. When I came back, she looked confused. Jessica, I've reviewed your blood work, your scans, your entire medical history. Can you tell me about your diagnosis? The terminal blood disorder. I explained what I knew. The rare condition. The treatments. The prognosis. She frowned. Who told you this? My parents. Dr. Harrison. Everyone. Dr. Harrison retired 5 years ago. His records were transferred here. But Jessica. She turned her computer screen toward me. There's no indication of any blood disorder. Your blood work is completely normal. Has been for years according to these records. The room tilted. What? Your blood counts are perfect. Your scans are clear. Whatever treatments you think you're receiving, they're not for any condition I can identify. But, I've been sick for 13 years. According to these records, you've been healthy for 13 years. The only prescriptions in your file are prenatal vitamins and iron supplements. I stared at the screen. At my name. At test results showing normal ranges. At notes from Dr. Harrison saying, patient in excellent health, and no concerns at this time. I don't understand. Dr. Chen's expression shifted from confusion to something else. Something that looked like concern mixed with anger. Jessica, I need to ask you something important. Who has access to your medical information? My parents. They've always handled everything. And who told you about the diagnosis? They did. After the tests. She was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out a form. I want to run a comprehensive panel. Complete blood work, full body scan, everything. And I want you to come back without your parents. Alone. Can you do that? I nodded, not trusting my voice. The tests took 2 days. I told my mother I was working extra shifts. I couldn't tell her where I was really going. Not yet. Not until I understood what was happening. When the results came back, Dr. Chin sat me down with a gentleness that somehow felt worse than the confusion. Jessica, you're completely healthy. There is no blood disorder. There never was. The words didn't make sense. I'd been living with this diagnosis for 13 years. I'd structured my entire life around it. But the treatments? What treatments exactly? Can you describe them? I thought about it. Really thought about it for the first time. Monthly appointments. My mother gives me medications. I go to the hospital for infusions. What hospital? I told her. She made a note. Jessica, I checked with that facility. You're not registered as a patient there. There's no record of any treatments. My hands started shaking. What are you saying? I'm saying someone has been lying to you. For a very long time. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour after that appointment. Staring at nothing. Trying to make sense of something that couldn't make sense. If I wasn't sick, then why did my parents tell me I was? Why would they do that? What possible reason could there be? I thought about my life. The small apartment. The safe job. The absence of risk or dreams or plans. The way I'd made myself smaller and smaller until I was barely there at all. And I thought about my sister. Her big life. Her confidence. The way my parents talked about her future with certainty while they talked about mine with sadness. One child who shined. One child who faded. I started the car. But I didn't go home. I went to the library. It took 3 days of research to understand what had happened to me. 3 days of reading about Munchausen syndrome by proxy, about parental manipulation, about medical child abuse. 3 days to accept that my mother had been poisoning my life with a lie. The medications she gave me? I had them tested. Vitamins. Harmless but useless. The hospital visits? I checked. She'd been taking me to a wellness center, not a treatment facility. The diagnosis? Fabricated. 13 years of my life stolen by a lie. I needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. I went back to Dr. Harrison's old office, now part of a larger medical group. I requested my complete file. Every test, every note, every visit from age 0 to 16. It took a week to get everything. When I opened the folder, My hands shook so badly I could barely read. The records were clear. Every checkup, healthy. Every test, normal. Every note, patient thriving, no concerns. And then I found it. A note from when I was 16. The week after my supposed diagnosis. Mother expressed concerns about patient's increasing independence. Recommended family counseling. Mother declined, stating she would handle it internally. Handle it internally. By telling me I was dying. I made copies of everything. Took photos. Saved files. Built a case like I was preparing for trial. Because I was. Thanksgiving was 2 weeks away. The family gathered every year at my parents' house. The full production. Turkey, stuffing, the good china. Everyone pretending we were the perfect family. This year would be different. I spent those 2 weeks preparing. Not just gathering evidence, but preparing myself. For 13 years, I'd been the sick daughter, the fragile one, the one everyone protected and pitted. I'd learned to be small, quiet, grateful. I needed to remember how to be angry. The night before Thanksgiving, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, holding the folder of medical records, reading through them over and over. Each note confirming my health. Each test showing normal results. Each visit documented evidence that I'd been fine all along. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Making your favorite stuffing. Love you, sweetie. I stared at those words. Love you. Did she? Had she ever? Or had she just loved the version of me that stayed small and dependent and never left? I didn't reply. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and gray. I dressed carefully. Jeans, a soft green sweater, comfortable shoes. I looked at myself in the mirror. My auburn hair needed a cut. My green eyes looked tired but clearer somehow. My posture was still hunched. I straightened my shoulders. Looked at myself again. This was the last time I'd see myself as the sick daughter. After today, everything changed. The folder of medical records sat on my passenger seat as I drove to my parents' house. Every few minutes at red lights, I'd look over at it. Solid. Real. Proof. My parents lived in a nice neighborhood. 3-bedroom house, well-maintained lawn, American flag by the front door. The perfect family home. I parked on the street. Sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, breathing. Through the living room window, I could see movement. My family gathering. My mother in the kitchen. My father setting up chairs. Melissa and her boyfriend arriving with wine. The perfect Thanksgiving. I picked up the folder. Got out of the car. Walked to the front door. This was it. The moment everything I'd believed for 13 years would crumble. The moment I stopped being the dying daughter and became something else. I didn't know what yet, but I was ready to find out. I rang the doorbell. My mother answered immediately, her face lighting up with that practiced joy. Jessica. Oh honey, come in, come in. You look so good today. You look so good for someone who's supposed to be dying, I thought but didn't say. Not yet. I hugged her. Felt her thin arms around me. Smelled her perfume, the same one she'd worn my whole life. For a moment, just a flash, I wondered if I was wrong. If there was some explanation. If my mother, who'd held me when I cried and driven me to appointments and sat beside me through treatments, could really have done this. Then I remembered the medical records. The proof. The 13 years stolen. I pulled away. Hi, Mom. The house smelled like turkey and lies. I walked into the living room. My father stood up from his armchair, smiling that sad smile he always had around me. Jessica. Good to see you, kiddo. Melissa bounced over, boyfriend in tow. Jess. Happy Thanksgiving. She hugged me tight. This is Marcus. Marcus, my sister Jessica. Marcus shook my hand gently, like he'd been warned I was fragile. Nice to meet you. You too. My aunt and uncle arrived shortly after. More hugs, more gentle touches, more pitying looks. Everyone treating me like I was dying. Because that's what they'd been told. We settled in the living room, drinks in hand, making small talk. My mother bustled around the kitchen, orchestrating the meal with military precision. My father turned on football, volume low. Melissa showed photos from her recent trip to Costa Rica. I sat on the couch, the folder hidden in my bag beside me, and watched. Really watched. My mother kept glancing at me, making sure I was okay, asking if I needed anything. Her concern looked real. But I knew now it wasn't. It was performance. Control disguised as care. My father barely looked at me at all, like he couldn't stand to see his dying daughter during the holidays. Or maybe he just couldn't stand his own guilt. Melissa was oblivious. She'd grown up with this story, never questioned it. Why would she? Parents don't lie about terminal illness. Except mine did. Dinner was ready at 3. We gathered around the table, places already set. My mother had put me at the end, a place of honor for the sick family member. Or maybe just a place where I'd be easy to overlook. The food was beautiful. Golden turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans, rolls. My mother's specialty. The meal she perfected over decades of Thanksgivings. We held hands for grace. My father's prayer included a line about being grateful for the time we have together, his voice cracking slightly when he said it. I squeezed my mother's hand. She squeezed back, her eyes glistening. Then we ate. Conversation flowed. Work stories, vacation plans, neighborhood gossip. Normal family dinner talk. Except every few minutes, someone would turn to me with concern. Jessica, are you eating enough? Do you need to rest? How are you feeling today? I answered automatically. Fine. Good. A little tired, but okay. The same answers I'd given for 13 years. We were on dessert when my mother stood up, wine glass in hand. I want to make a toast, she said, her voice warm. Everyone quieted. Raised their glasses. I'm thankful for all of you. For family. For these moments together. Her eyes found mine. Especially grateful for Jessica. For her strength, her courage. For making the most of every day despite everything she's going through. My aunt nodded, tears in her eyes. Jessica, honey, we're all so proud of you. Everyone looked at me. Smiling. Sympathetic. Loving in that pitying way I'd learned to accept. The treatments aren't working as well as we'd hoped, my mother continued, her voice breaking slightly. But Jessica never complains. She just keeps going. That's the kind of person she is. Melissa reached over and squeezed my hand. My father cleared his throat. To Jessica. To Jessica. Everyone echoed, raising their glasses. I looked at my mother. At her tears. At the performance she'd perfected over 13 years. And I smiled. Reached down to my bag. Actually, I said quietly, I have something to share too. The table went silent. Everyone watched me. I pulled out the folder. Set it on the table between the cranberry sauce and the stuffing. My mother's face changed. Just a flicker. A flash of something that looked like fear. What's that, honey? Her voice was too light. I opened the folder. Pulled out the first page. Dr. Chen's recent report. These are my medical records. The real ones. I slid the paper toward the center of the table. My father leaned forward to read. His face went pale. According to my actual doctor, I'm completely healthy. I don't have a blood disorder. I never did. The room froze. You could hear the football game playing faintly from the TV in the other room. Jessica, what are you talking about? Melissa's voice was uncertain. I pulled out more papers. Test results from when I was 16. All normal. Notes from Dr. Harrison. Patient in excellent health. These are from the year you told me I was terminal. The year you said I had 5 to 10 years to live. I looked at my mother. It was 13 years ago. I'm still here. Want to know why? My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Jessica, stop. Because I was never sick. My father stood up. There must be some mistake. The diagnosis. There was no diagnosis. I spread the papers across the table. Every test. Every checkup. Every single medical record shows I was healthy. Completely, perfectly healthy. My aunt picked up one of the papers, reading. Her face shifted from confusion to horror. Sarah, she whispered, looking at my mother. What is this? My mother was shaking her head. You don't understand. I was trying to protect you, Jessica. You were so reckless, so desperate to leave, to throw your life away. So you told me I was dying? My voice stayed calm. Too calm. You convinced me I had a terminal illness, so I'd stay close? So I'd stop wanting things. It wasn't like that. What was it like? I pulled out the final document. Dr. Harrison's note about my mother declining family counseling. About her wanting to handle it internally. You were 16 and independent. And you couldn't control that. So you gave me a disease that would keep me small and scared and dependent forever. Melissa's boyfriend Marcus stood up, backing away from the table. This is insane, Melissa breathed. It is, I agreed. 13 years of my life. Gone. Because I thought I was dying. My father sank back into his chair. Sarah, tell me this isn't true. My mother's facade finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face. I just wanted to keep her safe. She was talking about art school in California, about traveling, about moving across the country. She was going to leave us. I couldn't lose her. So you made sure she lost herself instead? My aunt's voice was sharp. I gave her stability, safety, a life close to family. You gave her a prison. Melissa was on her feet now. Jesus Christ, Mom. You told her she was dying. For 13 years. Do you understand what that means? I was going to tell her eventually. When she was more settled. When she understood. Understood what? I cut her off. That you loved controlling me more than you loved letting me live? My mother reached for me. I pulled back. Don't touch me. Jessica, please. I'm your mother. I love you. You don't love me. You love the version of me that needed you. The sick daughter who couldn't leave, who couldn't have a life of her own. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice stayed steady. David. I broke up with him because I thought it was cruel to make him love someone who was dying. He's married now. Has a kid. I could have had that. Honey. Art school. Traveling. A career. Children. A future. I gave up everything because you told me I didn't have time. My father's head was in his hands. How could you? He whispered to my mother. How could you do this? Did you know? I asked him. He looked up, face twisted. No. God, no. I believed the diagnosis like everyone else. The hospital visits. The treatments. The medications. I looked at my mother. All fake. Wellness centers and vitamins. But you sold it so well. The concerned mother, sacrificing everything for her sick daughter. My aunt stood up. I think we should leave. No. I shook my head. You should all stay. You should all hear exactly what she did. I pulled out my phone. Opened the photos I'd taken. These are my prescription records. Vitamins. Iron. Prenatal supplements. Nothing that would treat a terminal blood disorder, because there was no disorder to treat. I swiped to the next photo. This is my patient record from the hospital Mom took me to. It's a wellness center. Offers massage therapy and acupuncture. Not chemotherapy. Not treatments. Spa days. Swipe. These are my bank statements. I've been sending Mom $300 a month for years to help with medical expenses. Want to guess where that money actually went? My mother's face was white. Stop. Home renovations. Her bathroom remodel. The new patio. All funded by the daughter she convinced was dying. Melissa was crying now. I can't believe this. Believe it. Our mother is a liar. She's been lying for 13 years. And she was never going to stop. I gathered the papers, put them back in the folder. I've contacted a lawyer. What you did is called medical child abuse. Munchausen by proxy. It's a crime. And I'm pressing charges. My mother gasped. You wouldn't. Watch me. I picked up my bag. Looked around the table at my family. My father, broken and guilty by association. My aunt and uncle, horrified. Melissa crying. Marcus, looking like he'd stumbled into a nightmare. And my mother, finally exposed. For 13 years, you told me I was dying. You stole my 20s. My dreams. My life. And for what? So you could feel needed? So you could keep me close? Jessica, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 13 years. I walked to the door. Turned back one last time. I'm 29 years old. I just found out I'm not dying. I have a whole life ahead of me. And not 1 second of it will include you. My mother collapsed into her chair, sobbing. I walked out. Left the door open behind me. Let the cold November air rush into their perfect house, disrupting their perfect holiday. I got in my car. My hands shook as I started the engine. And then I drove. Not home. Just drove. Through neighborhoods lit with holiday lights. Past families through windows, celebrating together. I drove until I reached the ocean. Parked at an overlook. Sat there as the sun set over the water. I was 29 years old. I was healthy. I was alive. And for the first time in 13 years, I had a future. I pulled out my phone. Looked at the art school websites I'd saved years ago, but never applied to. The travel blogs I'd bookmarked but never read. The list of dreams I'd written when I was 16 and thought I'd never fulfill. I opened a new email. Subject: Application Inquiry, MFA Program. I started typing. Behind me, my phone buzzed with calls. My mother. My father. Melissa. I ignored them all. I had 13 years to make up for. And I was starting now. 3 months later, I was standing in an airport. Boarding pass to Barcelona in my hand. One-way ticket. The criminal case against my mother was pending. My lawyer said it was strong. Medical abuse, fraud, emotional manipulation. She'd likely face charges. My father filed for divorce. He'd been a passive participant in my imprisonment, but he was trying to make amends. Small steps. We talk sometimes. Melissa and I were rebuilding. Slowly. She'd been a victim of the lie too, in her own way. We were both learning who we were without our mother's manipulation. As for me, I was learning to live. Art classes in Spain. Then maybe Paris. Maybe Tokyo. All the places I'd dreamed about. I'd meet people. Fall in love. Make mistakes. Take risks. All the things I'd been too scared to do when I thought I was dying. The boarding call came. I picked up my bag. As I walked down the jetway, I thought about my mother, about the lies that had shaped my entire adult life, about the control that had masqueraded as love. Some people steal money. Some people steal belongings. My mother stole something worse. She stole my time, my belief in my own future, my permission to want things. But she couldn't steal what came next. I boarded the plane, found my seat by the window, watched as we taxied to the runway. And as we lifted off, as the ground fell away and the sky opened up, I finally felt it. Freedom. Real, terrifying, beautiful freedom. I was 29 years old. I was healthy. I was alive. And I was just getting started. If this story felt uncomfortably familiar, if you've ever been controlled by someone who claimed it was love, if you've ever had to choose between family and freedom, remember this. Your life is yours. Not theirs to shape, not theirs to limit, not theirs to steal. And it's never too late to take it back. If any part of this resonated, tell me where you're watching from below. Share your story if you're ready. And hit subscribe. The next one might be even closer to home. Retryin'.